And we are live right now. And I'm looking at my handphone. We are about a couple of seconds lag, but I'm so glad we have made it today. Um, and if you're looking at us from Facebook, I'm Vicky Esther Chang, and we are podcasting you live from Singapore. And wherever you are, you turn the globe with your finger, you're with us. The earth has actually totally flattened to a point whereby you can just click and you get connected instantaneously to the rest of the world. And this is the marvel of science we're living in, aren't we? A little bit about the, myself and the Platinum platform, and you're with me. You can also see us now live and also go to YouTube. Talk About Life by Vicky Esther Chang, and all podcast catchers Talk About Life Vicky Esther Chang, where you can look at all my podcast episodes since 2020. And if you're wondering what we are doing today, this state of our world, AI and humanity, and also a couple of explanation here or caveat to those of you who are looking at us. Are we politically inclined to any parties? We are not. We're just independent people, professionals, and wanting to give out information in an entertaining and educational way. Do not take any of this information based by our information just for entertainment. And if you need any other information, go to your lawyers, go to professional for advice. So this is just between ourselves having a very conversational coffee table talk. And also, if you would like to endorse us, would like us to endorse your product or your service or a company, you can write to me at Vicky at gdmeducation.com. But we are not politically inclined with any party, and we are not taking any foreign donations. I think that's very important, Alex. For Singapore, we have to declare that we do not take any foreign funding.
Correct. If
that's very
the
important.
donation is $1 billion, I'm open for discussion.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about $1 billion of business investments, why not? It is all about a business investment. Okay, again, one more thing I would like to talk about. I have been bombarded by internet brigade, and Singapore or the world is not Disneyland. So the internet brigade, you know who you are. But again, I'm happy to have you on. If you want to be my fan, you want to be my follower, yes. But again, we do not want to endorse any political party. I am always for the ruling party. Right, I'm always for our forefathers, our founding fathers, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, and I'm very sure Mr. Alex Chan is too. I'm happy to be born and bred and educated here in Singapore. It is a fortune. I would say that we are born and bred here in a very peaceful place where we respect people from all walks of life. There is no classism, maybe a little bit of elitism, but I should say. But generally, I think we are one people, one nation under Singapore. And we are going to celebrate our 60th birthday, I think, this year, or 61st birthday for Singapore. And I just want to thank everyone, top, down, right, left, front, and back, whomever you are who has made Singapore what we are. Just want to thank you the mothers, the housewives, the teachers, the janitors, religious leaders, whichever religion or faith you come from, and also the man in the street. I think everyone makes a country great. And there's so much respect I have for people without names. People who are just trudging through life. I always have respect for people who are the Grab drivers and the Grab deliverers, and also the drivers, and also the bus inspectors, and also the engineers, and also the foreign labor, the immigrants who actually help to build our country, and also not forgetting the leaders who is toiling every day to make Singapore great. So just want
Well,
to say thank you to all Singaporeans. Also, thank you, Alex, for being with us.
no, but you sound like you just won the Grammys and taking the entire list of people. That's it's like,
That's great, right? Isn't that what Jensen Huang did at GTC?
well, I think the first thing that he did was I mean, after looking at the announcement, I think we should have a rule. Oh well, we should have a legislation. Like
Mm,
in future, all robots
mm,
should not be
mm,
more than like 3 feet tall, right?
mhm,
All of them must have short arms and short
mm.
legs. And
I think so.
most important of all, they must look cute. If you're not cute, you can't be in production, right? Right? So that's probably the best rule or best law or legislation in the future of robotics. All
Yeah,
robots must
yeah.
look cute.
Yeah, okay. Before we even start into today's topic, I'd like to play two videos that frames the direction of our talk for today and for the next couple of weeks. The first video from Jensen Huang at his GTC conference, his yearly conference.
This is where almost the entire world got it wrong. The computation requirement, the scaling law of AI is more resilient and, in fact, hyper-accelerated. The amount of computation we need at this point as a result of agentic AI, as a result of reasoning, is easily 100 times more than we thought we needed this time last year. This is where almost the entire world got it wrong. The computation requirement, the scaling law of AI is more resilient and, in fact, hyper-accelerated. The amount of computation we need at this point as a result of agentic AI, as a result of reasoning, is easily 100 times more than we thought we needed this time last year.
And that was Jensen Huang at his GTC yearly conference with all his developers. And also another video from featuring Elon Musk.
In 10 years, probably AI could do anything better than a human can, cognitively. Probably almost, I think in 10 years, based on the current rate of improvement, AI will be smarter than the smartest human. Yeah. There will also be a massive number of robots. So humanoid robots.
By the way, I got to ask, how come your robots look so much like the creepy robots for my robot?
It's not meant to look like any prior robot. We'll iterate the design. You'll be able to have a lot of the robot parts are cosmetic. You'll be able to switch out the kind of snap-on cosmetic parts of the robot to make it look like something else if you'd like. Mm-hmm. So there will be ultimately billions of humanoid robots. All cars will be self-driving.
In 10 years?
In 10 years, probably 90% of miles driven will be autonomous.
Huh. Wow. That fast?
Yeah. In 5 years, probably 50% of all miles driven will be autonomous.
And
right.
that is something that I thought we could dovetail to what you talked about. Robots should be cute and small.
Yeah, robot. Exactly. Ted Cruz. We're on the same thing, right? So okay, I'm not too sure about the 3 feet thing, but they gotta look cute. If not gonna go into production.
I thought they shouldn't be bigger than the human at a certain level, because if you do look at some of these robots that's coming out from China, whereby they are so advanced because they can dance, they can do the kung fu, right? And they can do the jumps, etc. And they could enforce security, and that could be quite scary because they could be there to control human. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are with us, you are with the Platinum Platform. I am Vicky Esther Cheng, and We've got Alex Chan as my co-host. Alex, would you like to take away the floor and tell us who you are and dive into today's theme?
Right. I think if you've been on the series, you know that what we do is we do deep search on videos, meaning that we extract different sort of data points and data types and from videos, right? So at this point in time, we're using something like 30 to 40 different kinds of AI to get into the video to extract the content out and make it and we index it and we make it searchable, right? Of course, we are also currently now using some sort of Gen AI to extract video data from and look, we have an index of video data, right? And we use Gen AI to put that into video data and Gen AI. So we're at that stage right now, and I think Elon Musk is not too far away, right? And I keep going back. I mean, in the entire series, I keep going back to the fundamental problem or fundamental issue about power, right? And Zheng Xuanhuan just said that they need 100 times. Well, maybe not 100 times. We don't exactly know. But the point here is this: even if it's twice, or even if it's 10 times, 50 times, right? Whatever we have at this point in time in terms of power, in terms of power production, we will not be able to sustain the current pace. So that's number one.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two, that if you don't mind, let me finish, right? Number two, I'm not exactly sure what kind of ecological environment that we'll be getting into. Imagine if we need 100 times of power, right, from what we have today. But you know, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. So I think hopefully AI caused some problems, and I believe AI, what the episode is about today, will be able to solve some problems as well.
Yeah, and that is exactly what Jensen Huang said at his GTC long, lengthy speech. He talks about power. He talks about there is a limit in the power now, and your ability is limited by the limited power. And if you are able to exponentially increase that energy, you will exponentially increase your capability. And let me just summarize some of the things we're going to do today. We talked about yesterday, we talked about AI and labor. And we are going to talk about today. We want to finish up the topic of AI and intellectual property. And that is what Sam Altman of OpenAI keeps talking about with the American government. He says that if the American government does not allow him to use copyrighted material, then America will lose out in the AI race. I would like Alex to talk about that. And also, Alex, we did talk about fundamentally, okay, just let me pull out the document.
Yep, sorry, I should have sent it to you earlier. I totally forgot about that.
We also talked yesterday about the economics aspects. Not a lot, but it could go on to a module if we have like a time frame of 3 months. But today we want to talk about AI and policy and how does the regulatory framework is needed to address the economic challenges and the opportunities of AI, and probably discuss the role of government in promoting responsible AI development, which is exactly what China is talking about. They want to collaborate with the US so that they can use AI for the better good of humanity and not open the Pandora box. This is in the words of the Chinese party. Next, if we have the time, let's talk about AI and trade, how AI is changing global trade, and also probably talk about AI effect on the trade of services. And I hope that we can spend more time in talking about AI and the golden age of science accelerating discovery. And you mentioned here AI's role in powering drug discovery and material science, and AI use of space exploration, etc. And with that, I want to make a shout out to Elon Musk to thank him for bringing back the stranded astronauts in space. They've been stranded there for 9 months, and you know what? And if he is tuning into our show, which is not surprising if he does, because we're talking about AI, just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I silently prayed for that success, because I was so nervous, because I don't want them to die. You know, I don't want any mishap. Can you imagine on the roads we can die? Right?
Right,
And that's
come
in
on, right.
space. So I kind of silently prayed for Sunita Williams and party to be back on Earth safe, and that that ties the fate of humanity, doesn't it? I mean, we don't care where they're from. We just know that they're exploring space for the goodness of mankind. And for that, I just want to thank all the scientists behind for bringing them safely. And also that shows the significance of the technological advances, Alex, which we want to talk about today. Think about, I just want to think about the marvels of technology development. Think about that, Alex. In my grandmother's time, in my grandfather's time, when they were in Chinatown, those times, trying to make a living in Singapore, Chinatown, think about that kind of struggles when you tell them that, hey, one day the buildings will be so sky high up there, like 30, 40 stories, and you can actually take a lift up there. You talk to people who are in the countries, in the suburbs, they've never been to big cosmopolitan cities. In their mind, they would not even imagine buildings that are so cosmopolitan in big cities like in Shanghai, in Singapore, or in Dubai. Think about that. That's just like 2 generations ago. But think about now, we've got something called a miracle machine in our hands. And this is a machine. And therefore, the things that we're going to talk about, the marvels of technological breakthroughs, about what Elon Musk says and about what Jensen Huang says, about how the world is going to be in 5 years' time, 6 years' time, 7 years' time, that will happen because the marvels of science made our lives happen right now. If you look at history, current history, we have changed our way of lives, Alex.
So
Think
I
about
think we have
that.
evolved. I mean, we have done a lot of things, but on the other hand, if you really think about it, right, we can't go back in time, and the pyramids will never happen again, right? Because we will not be able to do it, right? So I mean, even with current technology, we will not be able to do it.
The Great Wall of
So
China.
I mean, if it's Great Wall of China and all the wonders of the world, right? I mean, you have Machu Picchu. We will not be able to achieve that. So the question here would be, why, with AI and all these things that's happening
Yeah.
with technological advancements,
Yeah.
why will we not be able to achieve what people has achieved 5,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago?
Sure.
Time.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't have time. Right, so with all the natural, with all the new resources that we have, with all the technological advancements that we have, for some reason we don't have the time.
Yeah.
So
And that frames the AI race, right? I'd like to talk about something that we left off yesterday because we were so intense. We weren't able to follow up with AI and copyrighted material, be it songs, be it music, be it text or videos or images of actors, actresses, etc. Tell us about the arguments for and against copyrighted material, and what's that with the IP? What's happening
so
now?
I am on in a way I'm on both sides,
Yep.
right? So we know AI, number one, fundamentally it needs data,
Yeah.
right? Fundamentally it needs data, and
Yep.
I think Elon Musk is sort of right to say that all mankind's knowledge and whatever data that we have is already consumed by all the LLMs and all the
Yep.
Gen AI companies, and
Yep.
they all put them in, right? So the what they are doing right now, we are trying to create synthetic data to feed into a system. I get it, right? I mean, you need data to you need past data to make new music, meaning that with I think there's in UK 1,000 music artists, they launched the Silent album, right? This is actually in protest for the UK government, right, to sort of waive to say that okay, AI companies can use copyright materials.
Oh,
That is
wow.
in a nutshell.
Without paying them.
Yeah, you won't get royalties, right? So
Yeah.
So I think if you look at it from that perspective, then
Yeah.
we would have to agree that we have to respect copyright, whatever that. Well, opt if you don't opt in, there must be an opt-in mechanism or there must be an opt-out mechanism. So that's the argument in this, and I'm with that. I understand that, but on the other hand, right, because we are also an AI company, we understand the need to consume AI, and in order to make advancements in AI, we will need data, right? Okay, so this is the argument here, and
Yeah.
I understand both sides. On the other hand, why he was saying all these is Sam Botman saying all this is, and you can totally understand too, because there are some parts of the world that has also don't have such a regulation where you can actually use data freely, right?
Like in China,
So,
right?
well, I mean, let's not point out countries and regions
Okay.
and all this. But the point here, I think, here would be we have the
Mm.
point here that every region or every country would have a slightly different view of how
Mm.
we treat
Mm.
privacy data and
Yeah.
how we're going to use it.
Yeah.
So I is that a right or wrong thing? It's hard. It's hard to say. So
Mm.
hand on heart, right?
Mm.
I'm my company's in UK too. So I would like all the original artists, whatever music or whatever art they produce to
Yeah.
have copyright, because I mean I am also partly currently now with an IP infringement issue as well. So I totally am into that. I get it, right? But on the other hand, I also understand why all the AI companies would want all whatever data that they can get their hands on, whether copyright or not copyright. So where are we now?
So
I
what's
think
the argument or what's being discussed at WIPO or IPO? WIPO as in the World
yes.
Intellectual Property
Right.
Organization, or in a local context, the IPO. What's the conversation there?
Well, I think they have some guiding principles. I mean, in terms
Mm.
of they are the ones that talk about copyright. I mean, WIPO would be the governing bodies to look at copyright, trademarks, patent search, and patents and things like that, right? So they are in the right at the heart of making policies about all these issues. So, but on the other hand, you need enforcement as well. So
Yeah.
enforcement comes down to the country, the government, the governing bodies, right, to make sure that to make sure that it's possible to have some IP protection. But unfortunately, there is something called you have the IP, right? You have something called justice, right? However, there's something called the law. Unfortunately, justice and the law that sometimes doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
overlap,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Let's
They
not talk
go
about
they go to the case law.
yeah. They don't talk about for example, somebody you spend $1 million, let's say, for example, on to get a patent, right, on a certain feature, and somebody infringes on your patent. So in order to uphold the patent, you got to be able to sue the other guy, right? Right, you have to
Yeah.
go to the court of law, but that takes a lot of resources,
Yeah.
right? You need literally money, which is a big company. You need
Yeah.
to be able to, number one, perhaps file an injunction, and that costs money. Or, eh, however, the difficult part is if the infringing party is not even in the same region, so you can't even go there.
Mm.
So I think right now there is a lot of things, I will call it copying
Mm.
and infringement of all these IP. So even without the AI, right? Without the data and all these things are already happening,
Mm.
right? But I think at this point in time, all these, like for example, trademarks and copyright, they are very upfront and center because things that you can see, for example, somebody
Yeah. A
copyright
logo.
logo, right? You can actually
Yeah.
see it. But
Slogan, a logo. Yeah.
data you can't see. You
Yep.
can't
Yeah.
until you do a search, right?
Yeah.
And 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 then you find it. However, that I'm just going to say it out, right? So political correctness and just put it aside for a little bit. So there is a little bit of hypocrisy. There is a little bit. So where I
Yeah.
think is a hypocrisy here would be, say for example,
Mm.
I have a newspaper, right?
Yeah.
And Google index my stuff, right? Google
Mm.
index my stuff, and I will pray that the gods within Google would push my link all the way up, right?
Yep.
I would want to pray to the Google gods, please, please push my link up, and it's my content,
Yep. Yep.
right? So Google is
Yeah.
doing them a favor by
Mm.
indexing it, because you have to
Yeah.
index it first and push it up, right?
That's right.
So right now, the same paper,
Yeah.
so Google has Gemini,
Yeah.
and you type into Gemini and blah 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 and all this, and then my content comes up, right?
Yeah.
And then I say, goodness, Google, you can't take my content up, right? In
So that's
Gemini.
the paradox.
So it's a little bit of a paradox. So the why the paradox is actually not really a paradox, but it's because of the financial model,
Mm.
right? Because if mine is behind a paid wall,
Mm.
right,
Mm.
Google won't be able to get into the paid wall.
Mm.
Whereas if Gemini goes in a paid wall, so I think finally that this really sort of need to be resolved, right? In a way that something, perhaps a new law, a new way to monetize copyright material.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
mean, look, when you think about it, right?
The shared economy.
Yes, okay, streaming.
Mm.
So when streaming came on board, I mean, it's still
Like
problematic.
Spotify. Yeah.
It's still problematic today. I mean, I don't want to
Yeah.
say any streaming platforms are screwing with with
Yeah.
with the artists and all this, right? But some of them are, right?
Yeah.
So I think the key point here is number one, how do we protect the livelihoods of
Mm.
people,
Artists.
who create original content, which includes you and me.
Yeah. My books.
Yeah, includes you and me, right? So, if you but again, maybe can put it down. If you want to put a funny avatar of me, I think that's fine, right? But
Yeah.
if you want to put a avatar of me and trying to educate somebody else, then that's not right, right?
Yeah.
So I think that the point here is that the line must be somewhere, and that's going to be a new economy. One, to be honest, I don't think I don't think anybody knows, because
Yeah, we are still within this transitional period whereby you are in a very black box or gray box area.
yes,
We
if
don't
we
know
haven't
how
even
to develop this model of a shared economy. I mean, you're
Yeah.
right. I mean, you want your paper to be up there, but yet you don't want them to be using it. And my friend is an artist from New York, Shiva Stava. She was saying, all this art that is coming out, they are just imitating the artist, the strokes, the color, etc. And who's going to pay the artist at the end if their images of the painting is being, or their theme is being taken? So there's a lot of debate out there, and I think it's going to take time. But I think we are right on the right track, Alex, to be talking about that now, because one of the points that you pointed out is the role of government in promoting responsible AI development. I mean, this falls into responsible AI, right? You don't want to be stealing someone else's intellectual property.
Yeah, I mean, the word responsible AI, that phrase is somewhat problematic too, because responsible for who, at what standard? Who standard are we talking about?
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of these has to be, I would say, has to be done collectively, right?
Collective.
Collectively meaning that there are some things that I believe will be ground up, meaning that
Yeah.
we demand this,
A
right? Because
collective agreement,
yeah,
treaty.
and I think a lot of these has to be from the ground up because
Yeah.
look, I'm not going to say governments are not going to be any help, but I think we do they know any better? I don't think they do, right?
Yeah.
So like I mentioned also multiple times, laws are always lagging
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah.
So whatever we're talking about, literally every kind of technology, and then throughout history, it will always be lagging as long as there's sort of a government, because we don't know what bad has come out, right? So if we take 20 years to come up with some sort of legislation on social media, right? How long does it take for AI? So I really believe that a lot of this so-called demand and the push for legislation or the push for what you call responsible AI, it has to be ground up.
Yeah. And you know, China has actually called the US at the AI summit some weeks back. You know, we talked about the AI summit that was held
Right.
in Paris. They say that AI must be for the better good of humanity. They have to work together so that you don't open the Pandora's box. And I think they mean things like, you know, some of the voices on the ground that I read and I watch um, on the internet is you can actually get information from the AI bot to construct certain very destructive instruments, you know, so, you know, bombs, whatever. So there is a lot of talk right now to uh, to, in a way, I would say, restrict things that are overtly harmful to the general public, like maybe a nuclear weapon or a particular kind of machinery. Um, so I think that is part of the responsible AI that I think we should be concerned about, Alex. Am
Sure,
I right to say that?
I think there are some things that are obvious, right? I mean,
Mm,
when I say obvious, means that you do not want a 12-year-old, 15, or no 10 my kids, right, to know
yeah.
how to make an IED, right? So you don't want that to happen. Well, eventually she might be able to get there if you Google enough and you figure it out,
Mm,
right? But you don't want this to be readily at hand.
yeah.
You don't want this to ask a question and it comes out to you. You don't want that.
Yeah.
You want friction. You want hurdles in order to
Friction
get
and
that
hurdles.
information, right?
Yeah.
So I think and a lot of this stuff is friction and hurdles must be built in, right,
Yeah.
to safeguard certain things. Like I said, but then again, on the other hand, some things when I say obvious, it may not be obvious. It may be obvious to us. It may not be obvious to somebody else or obvious to
Yeah.
somebody else.
And
You know?
and in the interview with Elon Musk by Ted Cruz, Elon Musk was asked, killer robots. How close are we to having killer robots? And the probability of having killer robots. He says 10 to 20%. And 10 to 20%, I mean, of course, that's an arbitrary figure. But I would say that it is not unimaginable to have people get access to information to create that. Like what I just said, like, you know, I watched the YouTube, you've got certain robots right now are acting in place of security guards and who can actually guard people at the concert so that they don't come too close to the stage. So that could be positive or negative depending on how we deploy machines. You know, robots are going to be a machinery for us. So how
Yeah.
do we go into the other topic about the golden age? Are we going into a golden age of AI? The
Uh,
golden age of technology?
I mean, yes, we are, but getting back to the robots and all these things. Actually, next
Mm.
week, Dr. Li Feifei is going to come. Is
Oh
coming to Singapore.
wow.
Yeah. So
She's
I
one
will.
of the yeah, she's one of the
Yeah.
founders.
So
Um,
I'm very lucky again. The government, Singapore government gods heard me. Somebody that I managed to get a ticket, right? So I also I also posed a question, right? I'm supposed to pose a question, but unfortunately, if there's a complaint, I said the question that I am allowed to pose is only 250 characters. I said, right, because my question is very long. I had to like really put it down to 250 characters. But one of those things, the question that I posed to her, right? Again, I'm paraphrasing. I can't remember exactly what I said, but I'm number one. I'm concerned about the singularity that's going to happen, and plus, with advancements in power and with robotics, and eventually, we're looking at singularity, and we will given mankind's history, right, about war, right?
Yeah.
It's almost inevitable. So I was asking her, right, whether the world should apply Isaac Asimov's three laws of robotics. I don't know
What's
whether
that? Could you explain that?
so okay, so Isaac Asimov's three laws of robotics is essentially three very simple laws, right? To govern robots, right? The
Yeah.
things that they should do. Three very simple laws,
Yeah.
right?
Tell us.
Again, I'm trying to remember the first law. The first law is number one, to never harm a human, right? To never harm a human. Number two, right? The robots must obey orders given by the
Command.
human, right? Except if to harm another human, right? That sort of
Sure.
makes sense, right? And the
Yeah.
third law is to protect itself from harm, right? But as long as you don't conflict with first and second law. I hope I got it right. I hope I
Okay.
got it
Yes.
right. I'm quite sure. Um,
I understand.
yeah, quite sure I got it right because I've been reading Asimov since I was a kid. So I'm really into that. Look, Asimov is, I think he's number one, highly respected. And if any country, the problem here is this: if any country try to come up with any kind of law and try to impose it, you have a problem because another country will not like it. Whether even if the law sort of makes sense, right? The country, another region, another country may not like it. So I think I'm hoping the world will be able to take a step back in time, right? To look at something so simple like Isaac Asimov, right? The three simple laws of robotics, plus making robots cute.
Yeah, I like that having a very basic kind of self regulation or respecting a
Yeah,
particular um, self self control, self management.
yeah. But look,
Because in the medical field you do have that. Remember when they tried to clone the first sheep, right? They cloned the first sheep, and
what's the
then
name?
they had the new ethical laws that came out that do not try to clone that for human, etc., etc., etc. And of course that is very general. Maybe it's gone underground. We don't know. But I think there must be some certain form of a basic respect of principles, and people do need to come together to agree on this kind of principles as a kind of guardrails. I think we talked about that before. So back to the golden age of AI. How are we into the golden age of AI?
Well, I would say the golden age of science,
Okay,
right,
tell
for AI.
us.
So,
Yeah.
so I think that when I say golden age, I think literally, I think AI has already begun to unravel some fundamental mysteries, I would say, of science,
Fundamental
or even
mysteries.
mankind's history, right? I mean, is I'm not too sure. I'm a bit of again a bit of a sci-fi nerd, right?
Yeah.
I like, for example, when James Webb telescope went up, I followed it. I'm amazed. I'm amazed at the kind of imagery that we're getting with things that we have never seen before. Right? It's incredible, right? And I think this is exactly where AI has a very big part to play, because AI can do image recognition. By the way, I have a real story, right? I mean,
Tell us.
we are into video AI and
Yeah.
ability to look at videos, right? So
Yeah.
actually, I was in Singapore and I bumped into uh, astronomer. Literally, because I was running, so I was jogging, right? And it was raining, and I had to take shelter. Then and the guy next door, right next to me, was the same thing, but he was a foreigner, right? I'm not going to say which country, but he was a foreigner, and we spoke, and um, it, it was from a space agency. So I said, oh, this is what I do. I do space. I do, so we use AI to look at videos and all this. They said, oh, wow, you mean you do that? And can you look into space? I was like, uh, we're not exactly into astronomy, right? But
Yeah.
we don't use AI but we went on to have a discussion on how potentially, and he was telling me, by the way, on how potentially AI can be used for space. I was like, I just stood there for I think 5-10 minutes, just listened to him talk, and I was like, it's like a light bulb coming into the head, right?
Wow.
Is so I by the way, I mean, I've looked into it, and they are already looking into this because look, I mean, if we talk about AI in terms of
Yeah.
image recognition, right? We are also They will also be able to predict the effects between, say for example, interactions between planets.
Mm.
Look, I mean, when you have interaction between planets, we're talking about
Yeah.
gravity, right? So
Yeah.
perhaps we with the interaction, right, of even planets, we can actually also discover, using AI, to discover what we call exoplanets. Exoplanets are planets that's outside of our solar system, right?
Yeah.
So this is incredible because if you think about it, there's no way. Let's say, for example, James Webb came back with all the imagery, right? There's no way a human will be able to look at the entire spectrum.
Yeah.
I won't say no way, but it will take a long time. Let's put it this way, right? But
Mm.
the point here would be AI would be able to do this at the kind of speed and the kind of scale that is almost unimaginable, right? So really, in terms of astronomy, is this incredible amount of things that AI can do. And actually, if you look into the NASA website, NASA actually also documented how they actually use AI, right, in terms of space exploration. So it's already starting, right? So look, and there are so many other things as well. Something that I also want to bring through. I mean, talk about
Mm.
is the couple of years back. I also know there's a drug that was we can do drug discovery, meaning that it was entirely the discovery was actually entirely done by AI. Well, I'm not exactly sure when they say the word entirely, right? Because I'm sure at some point some humans will have to decide, oh, okay, this is good to go for the market and do trials and all
Yeah.
this, right?
Yeah.
We must enter human trials.
Yeah.
But the point here is that the discovery was done by AI, and I think this is no accident.
Mm.
It's no accident. It's simply because the ability for AI, right, to extrapolate, right, whatever potential, and also to perhaps even mix a different kind of compounds to come up with new discoveries.
Yeah.
So again, from a science perspective, I think if we are able to come up with new drugs, which also means that we will be able to perhaps even live longer. Okay. I'm not sure whether living longer will be a good thing as long as
No,
the
I would like to interject on this because I thought about that. There is this um, multi-millionaire. His name is Brian Johnson,
yes,
and he's
yes,
promoting Don't Die, and he has got a couple of summits already in Singapore.
yeah,
And of course, at first, I thought about it being a laughable matter. Me always being healthy and eating right and exercising and really literally trying to live right spiritually, health wise, mentally, intellectually, in every aspect of my life. You hold yourself a standard, but then when you look at this, it's like, this is crazy. But then I heard his speech. He say that imagine yourself in the 1980s and someone has to go for surgery, someone is sick. And if you tell them at that time in the 1980s, oh, you're sick is because it's due to bacteria. And due to certain things that enter into your body on a microscopic level, the people in 1980s would not they would not believe that. But back to the future now, you do know that there are microscopic organisms, right? And you've got things like vaccines, just different kind of drugs. And now we're talking about AI, like really like nano robots that can enter into your arteries to clear the clot in your arteries. And he says that we are now like in the 1980s. You may think that what I say about don't die, it's like crazy thought, but think about in the 1980s, they thought the same way too. They thought that diseases was just caused by you being bad or was an evil force, right? He said now we know that there are many, many causes of diseases. And he said, think about it now. The idea of don't die may not be such a crazy idea anymore. So when I listen to his speech, I think about yes, and that was what generations ago. And you say that even before the first plane by the brothers that
Right,
you
right.
know the Wright brothers were talking about planes that can travel in the air, can fly in the air. Now we think about that as crazy. Having the James Webb telescope, you would think that is crazy, and you would think that the or multi planetary life would be crazy idea. But hey, you and I were talking about unscrambling data. We're talking and we're sitting here and we are having a conversation that the rest of the world can see and view and text, and we can pull them up at the click of a button. So the idea of longevity and living to a very long time may not seem that crazy anymore. And Brian Johnson and all these ideas that you talked about AI and the scientific advancement and the golden age of technology may not be crazy. I think we're in this juncture whereby people like us, we are just in this fear of the unknown. And if you think about the fear of the unknown in terms of organizational science, it's just like you don't know where you're going to. That's why there's so much fear about AI. There's so much fear about robots taking over you and killer robots, etc. But you know what? When the scientific calculator came about, it kind of helped us rather than have the cosine and the sine and doing all this algebra. But
Oh,
with
right.
the calculator, it helped us, right? And I didn't have to like memorize all my algorithms or my sines, cosines, and my calculus, because they can do it with a click of a button. So, like what you say about what Brian Johnson says is not a crazy idea, I think now.
No, I mean, if you're looking for the elixir of life, meaning that you want I think is
You want to live young and live healthy forever.
yeah. So I mean, it's
You just want to have a second and third chance at life.
so I think but I think the word would be, I think the key word would be purposeful, or at least in what I think, right? I mean, what's the point of having a life that you don't do anything? Okay, that's just me, right? I mean, I'm
No.
all
That was the argument of Elon Musk recently.
right. So I mean, I'm also all
The
for
purpose,
the art of doing nothing. I mean, I love doing nothing
the
sometimes,
art of doing nothing.
right? There's an art to it, and I think there's a science to it. I love doing nothing. I love to sleep, right? I
Me.
get so little, but I think fundamentally, I don't think I want to live that long if I don't have a driven purpose. And we spoke about it yesterday, right?
Mhm.
Right? We spoke about what's the purpose. I
The
think
purpose,
we talk about you. I think it's very
the
important.
purposeful life.
Yeah, it's very important to have and to be. Yesterday was about economics. It's about scarcity, and also the economic man is productive, right? But of course, I think we with whatever that we have today, and with AI and potentially we're talking about robots here, and if with the advancement of science in the next 50 to 100 years, and the curve is just going to be exponential, right?
Exponential growth.
Yeah, I will not be
Hyper acceleration. That's what Jensen Huang uses, the word hyper
Right.
acceleration. And
Yeah.
the thing is, you're right. At this point, at this juncture, if anyone is interested in our talk, I invite you. That is the topic that Elon Musk is very close to. His philosophy about the purposeful life. We have so many robots, and in the next 10 years, if we're going to have like thousands and thousands of robots, and we're going to enter in this golden era of technology, the marvels of science. I mean, yeah, look at the marvels of science, right? You go to Google Map, you can actually literally see like where you're driving and how much is the traffic, etc. So that's the marvels of science. And the thing is that we may have already entered into the golden age of technology.
Oh, we are.
Alex. We are
And I
already
think
in the golden age.
so. If you look at I'm sure a lot of us, and when we look at the blue zones, right?
Yes, the blue zone.
The blue
I
zones.
talked about that in my podcast.
Did you? Well, I mean, blue zones is important,
In my other episodes.
So a lot of blue zones are natural blue
Singapore is a
zones.
sixth
Meaning,
blue zone. Yeah.
but Singapore's blue zone is pretty manufactured.
Yep. Manufactured.
It's not like
It's not like the
in
Italy or
in Japan is
or the Mediterranean or the
yeah, they're
Japanese.
not, right? So we are manufactured. So why can't we have more blue zones, manufactured blue zones, or where we have a more I would say longer life, but not just longer life, but more purposeful life, right? The Japanese will look at ikigai, about having purpose. So I think it's really about that, and I think perhaps because, like, again, we talked about this yesterday. Yesterday's John Maynard Keynes, right, talking about perhaps we are a technological advancement will be so fast and so much that we can be enlightened. Meaning that we'll do things that we want to do, right? So
the analogs of life.
Yeah, perhaps that's a good thing. But the analog becomes important right now. So we have so much that AI has.
It's going to take over
but
the
I think
mundane work of life. Yeah.
Yeah, but the last mile, right? The very
Last
essence
mile. Yeah.
is still very much analog.
Yeah.
Right? It's still very much unplugged, right? And look, there are so many things that we cannot, in terms of the role, AI's role in terms of scientific discovery. They can do things that we probably can't do, humans can't do at scale, like things like predictive capabilities and dealing with uncertainties, the chaos theories, and perhaps even, I think, and probably the biggest one, I believe, would be and we are looking at it right now, is the ability to discover hidden patterns. We human can't look at a whole bunch of numbers, right? Massive databases, massive amount of numbers. We won't be able to discern what are the patterns within those things. I mean, we can't. So, but AI, for some reason, they're pretty good at doing it. So they are gonna discover things that we human cannot discover. Right?
Yeah, I think now we are at the juncture whereby yes, the science advancement is going to be like accelerated. And the other juncture, the juncture we are at now, is that how are we going to balance that purposeful life? But you're right to say the blue zone thing, because I've talked about that in my past seasons last year. I do want to talk about that, Alex, because I do think, the blue zone and about longevity, about living longer, because people want to be given a second chance. People want to live a second life. They want to relive the mistakes, the decisions that they have not done, or they want to revisit certain parts of their lives again, and certain journeys, or go into a different trajectory again. So, I'm all with Brian Johnson, which I was so skeptical, but I do hope that with robotics and medical science that comes about, I do hope that, we can be able to find a purposeful life, and that makes life healthier, makes our spiritual life healthier, and then enable us to have a better quality of life with technology.
But all this reminds me of two songs. I'm into music, right? Reminds me of two songs. One is a Queen song. The title of the song is
Queen.
"Do You Want to Live Forever?"
Yes,
Do
I
you
do. In a good
want to
way.
live
In a
forever?
good way. Only when I'm
Yeah.
young and beautiful.
Right. The other one will be Alphaville, right? Forever Young, right? Do you want to be forever young? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm on the fence about this. I first of all, I think
So you don't, okay, not a problem for you. You just choose not to live in the blue zone.
right. No. I'm not saying I don't want to be. I didn't say that. I like that. I'm on the fence. But
Yeah.
if I have a purpose and I'm productive and I'm not a burden to my family and all this, say
Yeah.
yes, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's really about having that sort of being able to be active and to be productive, and I think um, there are many ways of doing this, right?
Yeah.
And I think the best way,
Yeah.
ironically, right,
Yeah.
is to unplug ourselves,
Unplug ourselves from the internet, from
whatever.
the connection.
Just
To
unplug
go
ourselves.
back to analog, yeah, I'm just thinking being a farmer at the end when I retire.
Uh,
But
I
I
don't
do
know. I mean,
and I do like the thought about going into this technological advancement, the hyper acceleration that Jensen Huang, said today, 16 hours ago at GTC. He talks about hyper acceleration. He's got so many graphs. He talks about the omniverse. I hope that if we come back next week, we can kind of dissect his speech about looking through his eyes about the future, and how he's going to accelerate using the technology he already has, because he says that he's going to scale up, and the video we talked about, we watched just 60 minutes ago. He talked about how wrong humanity was, because 12 months ago when he made the speech at GDC, he says that he got it all wrong because the technology of AI is able to scale up 100x, and is resilient, and he says that it will go up faster and faster in a hyper accelerated manner, and he pull out all the graphs, etc., about technology. So I hope that we can kind of dissect that about the future next week, Alex.
yeah, I mean this. Look, I mean, if you ask me last year, we don't know what we don't know. That's number one, right? And now we know something. But
Now we
then
know
again,
something a little bit.
on the other
Tip
hand,
of the iceberg.
if I'm to say that in 100 years' time we will need 1,000 more times the energy that we have today, just pure power. I don't think that's stretching. I don't think that's too far, right? So, which is the reason why I think one of the most fundamental, and AI, by the
It's
way, AI
energy.
is helping in terms of science as well, is nuclear fusion, right? So, nuclear fusion is a lot. Number one, is a lot safer than nuclear fission, which is essentially a nuclear bomb, and of course you have
Yeah.
nuclear waste and all this, right? But I think there's also a race there. So I think in a way that race to get to the first nuclear fusion,
Yeah.
well, that I think would be going to be very significant. And AI is really quite literally in a pretty much center of it in terms of discovery and in terms of the testing part of things as well. So that part is also very exciting, right? But it's one of those things that you don't hear too much about because it's really about AI and all this stuff right
Yeah.
now, right?
Yeah.
But that is going to be very fundamental,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah. I want to continue our conversation before we go off. Um, any other aspects of AI acceleration and technological advancement you would like to talk about?
Yeah, perhaps maybe we
We
can
talked
just end
about
off.
medical. Yeah.
Yeah, I talked about an hour, right? So maybe
Yeah.
I'm looking at a future where when AI can cure Mondays.
What do
Monday
you
is just
mean?
terrible. I don't know
Oh,
whether
Monday blues.
right? Maybe AI will be able to cure Mondays, right? So no more Monday blues other than a cup of coffee or whatever. Not you cure Mondays, and perhaps the real breakthrough is invent some part of teleport device that you can actually do a okay, I'm joking right here, right? From Sunday, go straight to Tuesday. Skip Monday.
Skip Monday. And
Right.
there I watched in my AI research, I watched a video that I think it's in Australia or in America.
Right.
They are starting to use the brain cells and the real brain cells to power AI already, and they are making it learn. So I was like so stunned. I'm going to show that next week about using real human cell to power.
By the way, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense.
Yes, but
The
that's
reason
scary,
why
right?
the reason why it makes perfect sense to do this because this brain here, the what we
Yeah.
have, right,
There's so many times.
is so many times more powerful than the
Mm,
current transistor chips that we have. It's
yeah,
so many times,
yeah.
right? So I think I was I think that was a couple of years back. I can't remember the exact number. Like our brain is equivalent to something like 80,000 chips all squeezed in together, right?
Mm,
And those are the most advanced chips back then. So the brain makes a perfect sense to try to, if you put all these together to solve the real problem because the real power actually is in our brain,
yeah.
right? But I also believe that in the coming decades, the science is going to get very weird.
What do you mean?
Very weird as in it will
Really
right now we
small?
have quantum physics, right? We have quantum mechanics and all this. So we're already talking about
Quantum
entanglement.
computing. Yeah,
Right. So and that's the computing part of it. That's the
yeah.
application, right? But
Mm,
I think there's going to be a whole lot of discovery that we cannot imagine. We cannot imagine.
you can't imagine
Right.
right now.
So I mean, if I think that the already
Just
they
mind blowing.
it's
Yeah.
going to be mind blowing. Like for example, the entanglement, right? That recently they just announced that they can actually do, even though it was for I can't remember how many nanoseconds that it happened, entangle happened. But that's crazy, right? So look, I think the science is going to get really weird in the coming decades, especially with AI, because they are going to be able to discover some new things and some weird
Yeah,
things as well.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
think I'm
And quantum computing, right?
right. That is already there, right? But I'm talking about there's going to be other stuff that's going to come out,
Mm,
and the branch and the
wow.
branches that will be able to like and let's admit it, right?
Mm,
Mankind, we don't know a lot. Right? We don't know a lot, right? So perhaps we need a tool to be able we need a tool that's smarter than us to make all this discovery. And that's I think why I say that AI this golden age for science,
yeah.
right?
So on that note, I really just want to thank you for having yesterday and today's very intense podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching us right now live or watching the replay either on Facebook, YouTube, or any of the podcast platforms, I am Vicky Esther Cheng, and we're podcasting to you live from Singapore. And this is for eternity, for perpetuity. The data is going to be out there. And I'm going to live forever because I'm here. So, and Alex Chan is my co-host, and we are podcasting and hosting this season, State of Our World, AI and Humanity, between Alex and myself. And Alex, would you like to wrap up in 1 minute before we go off and come back again next Tuesday?
I'm just gonna go back to having that cute robot. I number one would be to have perhaps there's globally there's some consensus on
Yeah,
perhaps adopting the Asimov's three laws of robots, right? His
the
three laws.
loss. Yeah,
Yeah. So that, right, and of course,
yeah.
I don't think I'll get my wish on the cute part, but sure, why not? Right, we can always have a wish for robots to
Yeah,
be.
I mean that's only cosmetic, right? I mean, like what Elon Musk said earlier on, it's always just cosmetic. You can actually just add on, you can have a 3 arm robot. Right now, all the robots are just 2 arms. It's just like in the configuration of a human being. But why can't we have a robot that has 4 arms? Right?
Why not?
Yeah, why not? So on that note, Alex, I'm so grateful and honored to have you on this podcast as my co-host. And a lot of people are tuning in from all over the world, including in America. And if you are with me, Vicky Esther Cheng and Alex Chan, both of us from Singapore, write to us. You can write to me to reach out to Alex, or you can just ask the chatbot for his contact. It's all there. Okay, for me, just go to Google and type in my name. You get all my information there, and we will live forever through all this data. So, Alex, yes, Alex, come back next Tuesday. We're going to talk more on episode 5 and episode 6, 7, and 8 for our season, and hopefully we'll come back for another season after we take a break to continue on this nanosecond change on the AI landscape. It is so fast. It is hyper accelerated. We just have to be sitting on our edge. Yes.
Yeah, I just had to do it. I mean, the first clone ship name is Dolly, and that was in 1996.
Yes, Dolly.
1996. That's almost 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. So the next clone human.
No, I think they could already have done that.
Oh,
but it's just like under the radar. And I'm not saying that it's not. I mean, it could easily be achieved because they have done for different kinds of living things. And you have seen Tom Cruise and all his movies. So you never know. It's already amongst us, living amongst us and breathing amongst us. So on that note, Alex, he and myself, we will bring to the audience and the listeners much more exciting topics, gripping topics and gripping discussion that affect the lives of humanity. And if you are watching from us from the US, India, or China, write to us and tell us that you'd like to be on the show. I do know there are people watching from the US, and some of them have followed me. Thank you. But do come and tell us your thoughts, your fears and your concerns, or your hopes, and also probably your vision for the golden age. Thank you, and see you guys next Tuesday, same time, Singapore. Thanks, Alex. Bye.
Bye.